चलो ये माइक आज साफ क्यों नहीं आ रहा? नहीं, आज ये बड़ा ब्लडनेस आ रहा है स्क्रीन।
अच्छा साफ कर लो ना।
चलो क्या मेरे को तो ओ
आप उधर बैठ जाओ दादी के रूम में।
नहीं हो गया। जिन्हों वो गुड़े वाला आया जरा वो बोलो।
देख लेगा सब बाहर पड़ा है।
पूनम उसका देख लेना बाहर पूरे वाला है वो ज्यादा दिखता नहीं।
पकड़ो इसको मैं भी आपको। आप चल रही है।
अब शुरू होने से शुरू करनी है।
अच्छा अबे चप्पल पाओ और चप्पल पहन।
ओके ठीक है। हाँ कब आती है? ठीक है ओके थैंक यू।
सीखना पड़ा था क्या चलो आपने
देखो कुड़े वाले को दे दिया।
कितने लाए हो? दो एक तो है बस फिर ठीक आप एक आप ही ले लो
वो कुड़े वाले देख लिया।
कुड़े वाला नहीं आया पापा अभी।
राघव
हाँ जी
बेटू को 5 मिनट देखो।
हाँ ठीक है मैं हाथ दो तो मैं देखता हूँ।
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Very nice. Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ruby.
I
Good
hope
morning
you
to everyone.
healthy.
Good morning.
Sir.
So probably the this lockdown has been extended till 5th of this. So we'll try to include more counseling sessions, but I need some volunteers and particularly those who are working in the industry. Where are you working, Mr. Ruby?
Sir, I'm
You're not audible, please.
Mahajan. I'm logging from my wife's. No, I'm army, sir. I met there in.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
मम्मा के नाम अकाउंट से कैसे है?
It will be the last session for Dr. Seema. So I request all the participants that if they have some queries with Dr. Seema, particularly with auditing they can clear, and then on ISO
Yeah, yeah,
22000
nonsense.
also they can ask, right? Let her join the things. And one of the participants is about the regulations. Also, we will schedule one of the things on the salient points of the regulations will be there. One, I will request Dr. Pramod to take on the, he's working with the FFSI at Calcutta region. So to take about the new things about this, then maybe something related to 9,000 will schedule. Um, so this is the broad, and maybe there are certain good webinar on the analysis part, which also I will share with you, so that you can prepare for the exams or the other things are there, right? Anything specific help you need, please call or let me know.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, very well.
Okay, sir.
Okay, good morning,
Okay, sir.
welcome,
Thank
please.
you.
We
Welcome.
welcome each and everyone, all the students, all the learners. Probably you have missing the Prime Minister address, but please continue.
Yes, sir. No, sir. We have it just got over at 10:25, and then it
Okay,
was
okay, it's
uh,
fine. It's over. But probably the it has been extended till 5th of the uh,
third,
third of the May.
3rd of May.
May.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we will continue with the and we'll take the question answers also. There were two
Yes.
questions: how to decide the major and minor NCs. What is
Mm-hmm.
NCR? These were the questions. Which I'll
Okay.
leave it to Dr. Seema, please.
Yes. Okay. So just a quick recap. We talked about audit, the auditing techniques. We talked about audit planning. We also talked about audit execution. Now, very important output of an audit is the non-conformity. We actually looked into non-conformity last session also, but I'm just going to do a quick recap of non-conformity or non-compliance is nothing but the non-fulfillment of a requirement. And from where you'll get the requirements are what you are going to do the audit. It will be your audit criteria. These will be your legal requirements. These will be your standard requirements. These will be your own procedural requirements, the code of practices, customer requirement, right? So your non fulfillment of any of a requirement can be written as non-conformity. There was a question, what is NCR? NCR is nothing but non-conformity report, right? So that the report which auditor gives to you is, they normally use it as an NCR. So these are some of the examples of the specified requirements. When you have to write a non-conformity, please keep in mind whenever you are doing an audit, you are actually looking into three aspects: the intent, the implementation, and effectiveness. Now, intent is often looked into through the documents available. You actually look in whether there is any intention, where the policy, where the vision is available. When we talk about the implementation, you actually go on the site and look into the availability of the resources, how the system is working. The effectiveness is the most difficult part as an auditor to judge, because for this you have to actually find out, actually, as I gave an example of hand washing station, where non-availability, if the people are not aware, not using the hand washing station, even if the intent is there, even if the implementation is there, but actually it is not being implemented effectively. So effectiveness is the most important and most difficult thing to look down. So to obtain this intent, implementation, and effectiveness, there you can establish these specs using, as I said, there are three approaches. So one is you look into the documentation and records available. The second approach is you look into the actually how the work is done on site. You actually what kind of a resources are available. Actually, what kind of a site structure, layout, and everything is there. And the third important thing is talking to people, observing them perform the activities. So these are your three different types of evidences. So based on these evidences, you establish that you want to grade it as a non-fulfillment of a requirement or otherwise. Now, NCR is something which can be also graded. Whenever many a times you go for certification audit, somebody gives you a major NC and somebody gives you a minor NC. Now, these are different ways of grading it. For example, major, as I explained, that I as an auditor observed that there is a complete unhygienic utensils are not being washed. There is no cleaning. There are cobwebs there. Similar thing is being observed in stores. Similar thing is observed in other departments, other sites, other locations. That means there's a complete breakdown of the cleaning mechanism. Similarly, let's look into the pest control. No, there is no pest control, neither in site 1, neither in site 2. That means there is something really not good. So that means the clause 7.2 prerequisite program is not meeting the requirement. Now I can grade, combining all the issues, I can grade it as a major NC. However, if I do look it into a particular location, I may grade that NC as a minor non-conformity. Right? Okay. Okay. So some of the standards like BRC, British Retail Consortium, they are different standards. They also you give one more grading, that is critical non-conformity. Something which is even greater, something which is even harsher than major. That means there's a, if we pass this thing, you are actually going to sabotage the entire thing and you are going to put it in the food chain, right? So that may also be the thing. Then there are certain assessment mechanism where they put some concerns. Concerns are something different than the observation. That means you cannot simply say that there is a non-fulfillment of a requirement, but you can actually look into the conflict of interest. That means there is something conflicting which is happening, right? So there are different ways of grading, right? Depending upon what kind of an audit you are doing. For like, if I go and do an internal audit, I'll grade everything major because that is a place where I want to improve. Then if I'm going for a certification audit, I'll go by the system, whatever system that certification body has adopted. Okay. Whenever you have established the fact, always use the, or whenever you're writing the non-conformity, make sure whatever terminology is commonly being used within the organization is being reported in the NC also. This will help them to relate it better. Make it retrievable. Always give the numbering system. Always use related to the clause number, related to the department, related to the location. For example, a pest was cited in production department may not be really retrievable. So the pest was cited near XYZ machine meant for production of biscuits, closer to the tap or something like that. So now you can actually relate what is the exact location, right? Make sure that whenever you are writing a non-conformity, you actually let them analyze it to the root cause level, because your objective is not to find faults. Your objective is to establish the facts, and during that process find out wherever there are missing loops, and your intention is that the auditee should be able to fill that gap, right? So your intention is not to raise a number of list of non-conformities without helping, without actually making the auditee understand what it should be. Make sure that your NCs are crisp. We generally say 4 C's: clear, concise, complete, and correct, right? So make sure that your NCs address all the 4 C's. The non-conformities always have 3 heads: requirement, failure, and objective. As soon as you'll keep this in mind and you'll try to write an NC, you'll be able to meet the clear, concise NC. Let me give you an example. Let's say there is a production line. Bottles are being packed for mineral water bottles, and there your work instruction says, work instruction 4, they should not be, the women are roaming around, they're women handlers, there should not be any hairpins by the woman. And when you actually go and see, there are you randomly check 10 women, and you could find that 4 of them were wearing a hairpin. Now, if I have to write this and how I'm going to write, where is the requirement? The requirement is coming from their work instruction 4, which specifically says no hairpins in the production area, right? What is my failure? There were people wearing hairpins. Now, what is the objective evidence? 10 women working in the production area were randomly observed, out of which 4 were wearing the hair clips. So now, as soon as you'll keep all these 3 aspects in your mind, you're able to really write a good non-conformity. Now, once you have made up your non-conformity, it's time to actually do a closing meeting. Again, reintroduce your team, recap what you talked about in the opening meeting, reason, scope, criteria, review the audit plan and methods, that these were the departments we tried. We actually did this techniques. Some of the department, though we could not find the head, although we could not go into deeper into this, but we could make out from the documents or something like that. Report your observations, report first your positive thing, because each organization will always have a positive thing in there. Whatever be, but the positivity has to be there. Noteworthy efforts should be highlighted. Then you come up with your observation, your non-conformities, your grading as per whatever system you have set up. Make sure that you have to tell them, reiterate that you are bound with the confidentiality agreement. That means you are not supposed to disclose anything which you have seen over here to anyone who's not actually will be important part of the certification process. To overall summarize the entire process, tell them by when they have to close their non-conformities, by when they have to submit their corrective actions, what is the expectation, and then take up any question or answers if they have. So in case it's a certification audit, again, reiterate the scope of the certificate, tell them the validity of the certificate, tell them about the surveillance system, recertification system, and usage of logo. The 3 important things of the closing meeting are: always agree on the corrective actions and their time scale. You have to tell them that the audit or the certification process is not yet over unless the corrective actions come, and they have to be done in a limited time scale. So it is now, if you move just by doing the audit will not actually let you complete your system, and then you will give your recommendations, and then you have to follow up. Follow up will be looking into the root cause analysis, checking their corrective actions, and a part of the follow up of this audit will come into your next surveillance audit, because there you will check the effectiveness of the corrective actions, right? So whether it's a follow-up audit, that means re-audit, because it was all major NCs and we need to observe on site again, or whether it's a next surveillance audit, the part of this audit will be following up in the next audit. Always keep that in mind. So in your next audit, as a part of your planning exercise, another important element which now comes is to check for a previous report of that organization to understand what were the issues previously, right? So okay, so audit report should minimum have these information: the audit reference, why, the details of the people who are being audited. Generally, we keep the list of opening meeting, list of closing meeting, the departments where you have audited, the objective, scope, and criteria, auditors and auditees, name of the auditees principles, then audit program, audit checklist, apart from the audit report, non-conformity report, then approvals. Approvals means all the lead auditors also has to sign, and auditee also has to sign, saying that yes, we have taken a note of all these things and we will submit you the closure report. Circulation, that means by email or by whatever ways you have circulated the reports. And please look, there is very important element of the audit report, the confidentiality report. That means each auditor has to sign a confidentiality statement that they are bound not to disclose anything being covered in the audit process. Now, what are part of the follow-ups? Follow-ups include evaluation of the submitted corrective actions, evaluation by continuing assessment visit. That means immediately you say no, the corrective action submitted or documents are not enough to judge whether they are meeting the criteria. So maybe we can have another assessment visit or a partial re-audit. For example, I raised 10 NC, out of which 2 major could not be closed just by the documents. So I'm going to do a partial re-audit of that particular area only, or full re-audit. That means a complete reassessment, right? So this is all for the audit part, and I'm ready to take up any questions from the session 1 or session 2, the auditing part. So questions, if you can say.
All the participants, please raise the hand. I will make it unmute, or if you can do it from your end and ask the questions. I think the last question was mainly maybe the how to decide the major and minor and NCs.
I think I covered that.
Covered that, but you can start that same explain so that to make the discussions continue.
Okay. The grading of non-conformities, it all depends. Like, for example, you are doing internal audit, you may decide not to grade. You consider everything important, take the corrective action. Or if a certification body, generally it is major and minors. Major means when there are a combination of failures, you can grade it as a major. Or a complete missing of one clause. For example, the organization never prepared an emergency response system. That means then a complete clause is being unaddressed. That becomes a major non-conformity. Now, when I'm looking into a minor non-conformity, that means there is a certain lapse of a requirement. For example, the hairpin example is one of the minor non-conformities from the standard, which could not be fulfilled. And then the BRC standard adds up to another categorization like critical non-conformity. And their accreditation system like NABCB, they talk about concern. So it's all dependent. But major and minor are the 2 main categories which is important.
Any other question, Mr. Dr. Pramod? You wanted to ask something? Are you online, please? Hello. Any other?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Pramod, you wanted to ask something?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. This is Sachin. I want to know what is the criteria to become a auditor. So,
Okay.
can you please guide on?
Yes, sure. In case you had decide to take up your career as an auditor, whenever we talk about being an auditor, there's a competence attached to it, right? If we look into competence, minimum 4 things are required on that. your background education. When I say you're auditor, let's consider you want to become a food auditor, because there are different categories. Like if you want to become somebody who wants to do audit of the coal or something like that, there's a different perspective. Let's consider that you want to go in as a food auditor. So your basic education should be able to address this. If you look at ISO 22003, there are certain, specific qualifications are being there. For, as an auditor myself, I can say that maybe you have some background in food, maybe you have some background in microbiology, maybe education or chemistry,
Hi, Daddy.
or you right? So these are some of the field, maybe biotechnology. If you look at the FSSAI document, also they have specified agriculture, food, agriculture, biotechnology, whatever list of some of this education and some of the basic education requirements are being put. So let's consider that you have the first basic education. Then we move on to the next thing, that is your experience. Most of the time, most of the certification bodies, they look for a minimum experience of 4 years in the industry, in the relevant sector, to approve you for a particular code. Now there are NACE codes, there are IAF, there are list of codes for each food category, and I may be an auditor for 4 or 5 categories, but I may not be an auditor for the other category, because I may not have the expertise in that particular area. For example, I have an expertise in the, let's say, meat, dairy, but I am not an expert in, let's say, bakery industry, right? So there are, there are different codes. So based on my relevant experience. Now this experience can be there are 2 different modes which people consider. One is working in that particular environment, or providing consulting, or getting, attached to some of the requirements. For example, I do not have a direct experience in working in a fishery industry, but I have an indirect experience of knowing the fishery sector, because I worked as a competent authority which were dealing with the fish sectors, and I have been actively involved in managing the rapid alert. So it becomes my indirect experience in that particular area, right? So there are different modes of getting that relevant experience. Then the other is the skills. Skills can be, again, it can be by working, by auditing, there are different skills. The skill set for as an auditor can be doing some kind of an observation audit. Before that, you have to do a training, a lead auditor program, which is generally a 5 days program. And then you do that 5 days program, do the trainings, get the some certain amount of observation audit, write the report, your writing skill, because as an auditor, it is not just the knowledge which is important. Your communication skill, your writing skills, your observation skills, your listening skills, all these sorts of skills are required. So these are the, basic thing. And then I'll suggest that with the basic food safety degree, quality management program, with some experience in the food industry and a lead auditor training course, you must quickly get some observation audits and get that acquired skill. So that can be the route to become an auditor.
Madam, there is one question is there. In external audit, it is required all members must required during audit, or only team leader will cover all areas during the audit?
No. Member, when we are going for external audit, if we have a team of the auditors, that means each team member, there are a number of mandates which has been calculated. There's a system of calculation of mandates depending upon the size of the organization, depending upon the number of hazard plans they are dealing with, number of hazard control plans they are dealing with. And accordingly, they are being, but all the members may not be present in all the sites. There may be a situation where the lead auditor is doing in the main site, and then the rest of the auditors are doing in different sites at different departments. So all people may not be, but yes, all team members should be available at the site at one time or the another time and justify their
Okay, ma'am. We have a consultant hired for certification. for ISO 22000. So during audit, the consultant is allowed during the audit, or how it is?
I will not say that. I mean, the standard does not says anything on that, but it all depends on the. Most of the time, the consultants are generally present because they are doing a kind of a hand holding. Now, as an auditor, if I go as an consider me as a certification body auditor, I would like to see two things. The one, because in the older standard 22,005 version, there are two things. One is it's an outsourced activity. That means you have asked somebody else to develop a system for you. That means a part of your 22,000 activities you have hired to another. So I would like to see what are the controls you have on the consultant, right? The second thing is I want to see the competence, the selection process, how you select it, how competent they are. Third thing is, in case they are taking, if they are trying to answer everything, that means I'll say, I will say the implementation and effectiveness is not proper. The intent was there, that's why you hired a consultant, they developed the system. But now if they are intervening and trying to answer and, take up all the issues, in that case the system is not implemented and there is no effectiveness. The effectiveness can never be achieved until unless there is an implementation. So that will
Okay,
be my perspective.
okay. And sometimes it is found that the auditors means their behavior is not proper. Means sometimes they are arrogant nature type. So is there any provision so that we can means complaint against our auditor or like
Yeah.
that?
If it's a third party audit, yes, there is a provision, because all the auditors who are coming for a third party audit, they are bound to follow 17021 and ISO 22003. There is a clause which talks about the mechanism where you can give the feedback. Ideally, most of the certification bodies are now asking proactively for the feedback. Once the audit is over, as a part of the completion process, they actually ask you for the feedback. Even if they don't ask, during the audit process, we find that they are not at all listening and they are really arrogant. In that case, you can raise your complaint and you can, you can write it to the certification body and they have to take an action for that. They have to at least evaluate whether it was really an auditor's mistake or the auditing mistake or something. But yes, there is a provision.
But in that case, there is always fear that auditor will give a NC to our system. So
If
can uh,
the
can we
NC
change our
auditor,
certification body to can we switch to other body in that case?
for this case, for the certificate, the most important thing is it is a voluntary basis. It's not a regulatory audit, because for the regulatory auditors, I may say that there is no provision, not much provision, but still there are most of the organizations. I'm not sure about FSSAI provision, but definitely they'll be there. But in the EIC, where I've worked for there 7 years, 7.5 years, so I know there's a provision, and we used to very uh, you know effectively take, in case there's any feedback, any such feedback, to evaluate. I'll not say in all cases the auditor is at the problem or the inspector is at the problem, but yes, in some of the cases, if there is, we'll change the inspector, will not send them, right? So that is also part of their mandatory requirement as well, clause, to maintain the impartiality and avoid any conflicts during that. So that's again a provision under the 1702021 and 22003. Yes, they can be, but don't fear on that. If you want to change your certification body, it's completely it's with you. It is because it's a voluntary certification. I don't like this certification body, I may not go. But writing a non-conformity can only happen when there is a requirement, there is a failure evidence. So don't worry,
Okay.
you can always ask them, where is the requirement? Either requirement, they have to show the clause which states that yes, you need to maintain a system, then yes, it is a failure. or there's your own system or your own procedure says, yes, you need to do it, then it is a requirement. Or some code of practices or regulatory requirement. So apart from that, I don't think so they can write an NC just for the sake. But yes, there has been cases when people have been arrogant, and actually organizations has to face a lot of problem with such auditors. But
Okay.
I'll say as an auditor, it's the most important attribute is be calm, be diplomat, be persistent. Diplomat होने का मतलब ये नहीं है that you forget that what you are, you forget your purpose, right? If they do not agree, you also agree as an auditor. No, if you think it is important requirement failure, then you have to make sure that you give it a point. Sometimes there are situations that we write an NC because the auditor feel, okay, if the auditor does not agree, say, okay, this NC will put it under dispute and you do not sign this part, the rest is all okay. There may be situations then that can be sorted out.
Okay. These guidelines, auditing guidelines and management systems keep on updating on a regular time basis. So is there any forum so that we can come to know these audit guidelines are updated or not?
ISO,
So common forum.
most of these standards are available, and the ISO, they are expensive, if you have to buy them. So for the what kind of a process certification body has to follow will come under the conformity assessment standards, like CASCO standards, ISO 17020, 65. Then personal certification will be 24. So these are the different CASCO standards by which the different certification bodies has to, or inspection bodies and others has 22003, right? For the organizations, they have to implement ISO 22000, 9000, 14000 and these kind of a standards. So all these things, any updates, anything can be available at the ISO website. So in case you are connected with them, you can get connected. The another, in case you want to know more about it, I'll suggest NABCB is a good, it's a good website you can look into, because they deal with the conformity assessment system. Certification bodies are accredited under NABC. That's a national accreditation board for certification bodies. Laboratory will be under 17025. That will ISO 17025. That will be under NABL, National Accreditation Board for Laboratories. So I think they can really help you. I mean, they generally keep their websites updated on any of the requirements. And in fact, from there, you can understand what are the provisions for a certification bodies, where you can, in fact, if you are really feel bad about certification body and they are NABCB accredited, you can complain to NABCB also. And they are good.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
There's very few minutes are there. Mr. Vikram Chopra. Vikram Chopra, you wanted to have some question? Otherwise, meantime, madam, I sincerely thank you. And I request all the learners to kindly thank Dr. Seema. She's taking voluntarily these sessions. And we will continue more sessions also by involving some of students. But
hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I come to remember one question I want to ask. If external auditor is foreign employee of ODT organization, then may I change external auditor?
I couldn't get you clearly. Did you mean that if you are going for an external audit and there's some problem, can you change the external auditor? Is it the question?
Probably yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me explain you, right? If you have agreed to take up generally most of the time people agree for the audit team. Now during the audit you find that auditor is misbehaving or doing something really bad, then yes, you can. You can put it, as I explained, different provisions, appeal, complaints and other things. But as such, in between, I don't think so you can change. And you can change the auditor, but yes, once the team, when they were sending you the request for the audit, and at that time if you find that there is any conflict, for example, he's an expert being used which is from my competitors, this thing, yes, you can you can change, you can request for a change of that auditor. I mean, auditor or expert or anything, but not, I'll not suggest during the audit, because during the audit, there's a provisions of complaints and other things.